following is presented by Motion Sports Network. Hello out there to everyone in the Motion Sports Empire. It's me, it's Sam Kales, America's most adorable co-host. And I'm going to bring you what I hope is going to be the first in an anthology that I'm calling The Evolution of Sports in My Lifetime. If you caught Motion Sports, the show, this past Monday, Greg and I kind of really spent most of the time being the old man shaking his cane at the sky when we're talking about how sports used to be when we were younger and what they've kind of changed and morphed into now. So that got me to thinking, how has sports, all of your major sports, changed over the course of my lifetime? So this is going to be the first in the series in the evolution of sports in my lifetime. And today I'm going to cover Major League Baseball. I have it in the pipeline to cover the NFL, the NBA, NHL, NASCAR, college football, college basketball. But like I said, I'm going to start with Major League Baseball here today. And so what am I going to use to gauge these things? Well, I'm going to, with baseball here, I've got, what are the ratings of the World Series, attendance figures, things that have happened to change the game, some other issues such as expansion and labor issues that here baseball has gone through. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to cover this over all the different sports. Your feedback, I would love. Comment on the video, comment on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter pages. As I'm thinking about this, it can't just be that, oh man, I loved everything the way that it used to be. But I do really like what sports used to be and what it is changing into. Why is it changing? Who is it changing for? Are they leaving some of the older fans that made the sport and built the sport? Are they leaving us behind? But like I said, I can't stay mired in the past. I have to accept that if I'm going to be a sports fan, that I have to accept what's changing and change along with that. But I just hope that sports isn't going to go too far. And some of the stuff that I found with baseball here, I think they may have gone too far. So I'm going to give you the first World Series that happened when I was alive. Would have been 1977. The New York Yankees beat the LA Dodgers 4-2. They had an average audience of 37.15 million for that World Series. In that year, attendance averaged 18,400. Let me jump ahead a few years. I'm going to jump 15 years. 1991, Minnesota beat the Atlanta Braves 4-3. That World Series averaged 35.68 million viewers. Attendance for the 1991 season sat at an average attendance of around 27,000. I'm going to jump ahead again 15 more years. Now we're in 2006, where the St. Louis Cardinals beat the Detroit Tigers 4-1. The average viewers of that World Series, 15.81 million. In just 15 years, that's a drop-off of over 20 million viewers. Now, this past World Series had the Atlanta Braves beating the Houston Astros 4-2. That drew 11.74 million average viewers. In just under 30 years, you're seeing viewership drop by 2/3. Baseball, looking at it in this metric, baseball is doing something wrong. Let me go back and give you some other attendance figures there. So the 2006 season had an average attendance of 31,300. The 21-22 season, this was a COVID season, so with 18,000 or so in attendance, that's kind of a number that's being affected by that. If you bounce back to the 2019 season, the last pre-COVID season, attendance was at 28,600. So attendance wise, things still look okay, but TV viewership, something has happened with baseball, and viewership has really dropped. Baseball is trying to make some changes to speed up the game, but is it too little too late, or are these changes really not helping to bring fans in? So some other numbers in that TV rating realm. You were still around 30 million before 1994. 1994 is a significant year because 1994 was the player strike that ended up canceling the 94 World Series, and it rolled over into the 95 season with the loss of some games, even starting the 95 season. There was a little bit of a bump in viewership for 2001 with Arizona and the New York Yankees. That's the post September 11th World Series. Very, very patriotic display put on by baseball, and the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. And so that's one of the things that people wanted, something post 9/11. So maybe that was what it was going. So in between 95 and 05, viewership for the World Series was between 18 and 25 million. When you average, I'm saying this as averages. If you put the total number of eyeballs on each of those games, you're going to get some respectable numbers. You're going to get some viewership in the 90 to 100 million range over the course of a 7-game series. So if we look at it as just an average viewership, that's going to tell one picture. But when you look at it as a total viewership and what the advertiser is getting for that, maybe that's what's actually being maybe that's actually what it is that you're shooting for there. Between 2005 and 2021, viewership now has gone down. It's averaged under 20 million all of those years, except for the 2016 season where the Chicago Cubs finally won a World Series. You get a team like Chicago or the Boston Red Sox or the New York Yankees, the Dodgers, some of these bigger markets, they can bring some viewers in, although last year, again, a COVID season with the Dodgers win did not exactly help. So let's look at some attendance figures again during my lifetime. This is the 77 through the 2021 season. Attendance was on the rise in baseball steadily until 1995. The 94-95 player strike really hurt baseball attendance wise and in the eyes of the American viewing public. I'm going to talk about this more when I get to my coverage of the NFL. But there was a time in the 80s and 90s that baseball was a more popular sport than the NFL. Not in viewership of what the Super Bowl was versus the World Series, but baseball was it garnered more of a coverage. It led SportsCenter every night. It was the front page of all the sports sections then. When we weren't as connected of a world and what you had to rely on to get your news and your sports news, just from your local coverage and from ESPN, who was really the only game in town pre-internet. baseball was a bigger and more popular sport. It has since been eclipsed by definitely football, probably even basketball. And I would call baseball on the verge of becoming a regional sport, if is not a regional sport already, dropping back in that, maybe they're going to share a whole lot with the NHL. So those attendance numbers, 1994, the year of the player strike, attendance was averaging over 31,000. This is with when you have 82 home games, averaging 31,000. That's a pretty good number. When baseball came back in 95, that average was down to just about 25,000. It took it until 2004 for the average attendance to go back over 30,000. And then 2017, attendance drops to under 30,000, about 29,900. Baseball has, I think they were the sport that led the expansion bandwagon as baseball expanded. Then you saw the NHL, the NBA, and just a very little bit of expansion in the NFL. 1977 saw the addition of Toronto and Seattle. 1993, baseball added two more teams, Colorado and Florida. 98, two more teams added, Toronto and Arizona, and some alignments and things that happened all along those times. Baseball used expansion in the 90s as an influx of cash to the owners. The new franchises had to pay expansion fees, and so it was this was a nice boon of money coming into the teams. Now, some of the other changes that have happened is the expansion of the playoffs. From 1969 to 1993, you only had the two rounds. You had your championship series, and then you had your World Series. 94 was going to be the first year of a wild card. Although 94 we didn't have a playoffs, we didn't have a World Series, so that happened first in 95. From 95 to 2011, you had three rounds. You had your wild card round, and then you had the championship series, followed by the World Series. 2012, there was baseball expanded the wild card again, adding a wild card another wild card team, which is a wild card play-on round, and then you had the wild card round, League Championship Series, and World Series. This was done to try to keep more teams in the playoff hunt longer in the season. But as you see that I talk about these times where playoffs have expanded, it did not necessarily bring about a more viewers. I went over how the average World Series viewership has gone down, but you've had more teams in the playoffs. Labor, the 1994-95 season being knocked out by baseball was probably the most damaging. I've kind of already talked about that. But also in my lifetime, there was a baseball strike in 1980, 1981, 1985, 1990, and now here we are, we're sitting with another lockout. So that's 6 labor stoppages within 45 years. There was a nice long time of labor peace. Most of these labor stoppages did not have any games or very many games canceled or missed at all. But the damage that was done from 94 and 95, as we're sitting and looking at a lockout this season, I think that owners and players have kind of forgot what happened and how many fans drove away. So if you're looking at an average of 11 million people watching the World Series this past season, if we have a prolonged lockout this year, and what is viewership going to look like? If it drops below 10, I really think that baseball's in trouble. So what are some things that have happened in the gameplay of baseball that have made these changes, or affected the sport, changes to gameplay that have affected the sport. Well, recently, you've seen a home run explosion. This is what teams are after. They want the home run hitters, and so they're not necessarily worried about, hey, if the guy goes out there and strikes out twice, but he knocks it out of the park brings 3 in, that's great. He did his job. As you've seen that happen, you've seen less base stealing. Base stealing, this used to be amazing. Ricky Henderson got on base and you were just waiting for him to go. It was something exciting that doesn't exactly exist in baseball much today. The playoff format has changed twice, but it doesn't exactly seem like it's brought more people in. The move to some retro stadiums that began with Camden Yards in Baltimore. These retro looking stadiums, they'll bring people in, but that's, if they're relying on attendance to pay these players' salaries, then it helps bring people into the stadium, but it's not translating into a love of the sport as we see with baseball ratings. I know that I keep going back to ratings, but really that's what you have to go off of. That's to compare baseball to football to basketball to hockey, NASCAR, college football, anything that you want to compare. TV ratings is the way to do it. TV ratings plus attendance. Average attendance across different sports is always going to look different with your different size stadiums. So that's why TV ratings ends up being the number one thing that we're looking at when comparing and thinking of the health of a sport overall. Something that's happened in baseball, really, I don't want to say it's in the last 10 to 15 years or so, is a very big Latin influence. This is something that some places I think baseball is making a mistake. I don't think that they're doing their best to capitalize off of these players from Latin America and making them stars in the league and bringing in the Hispanic viewers. Baseball, this is one spot where you're really, really, really missing out. And if there is a place to find more fans for yourself, it's definitely in the Latin communities, Hispanic communities. And that's where I would be focusing a lot of my attention. So, as I said, probably here back at the beginning, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the facts. I don't have all the data. So if there are some things that I'm missing, if there are some other changes that's happened in the gameplay, if there's something that's happened that's drove you away from baseball, let me know what that is. If there's something that has changed and brought you in and made you a bigger fan of baseball, I'd love for you to let me know about that as well. As I make this big anthology, and when I'm going to finally get to the end and wrap it all up, I want to see is the drive toward getting younger people into your sport, is it actually helping, or should we be counting on the fans that have been there? Are you sacrificing fans that have been around just to bring in newer and younger fans? This is going to be probably a generational thing that we're going to have to wait to find to figure out all the exact answers to. But again, I'd love to hear comments from everybody regarding this. And it's been fun. And like I said, I don't want to just be an old man who doesn't care about what's going on. You have to be able to move and change and evolve and grow up and go as you get older and accept the changes that are happening. And that's kind of what I'm looking to force myself into doing too. I don't want to stop liking all these sports that I have for so long. I'm trying to look for myself. What has changed? How can I change myself to adapt to what this sport is, and reintroduce the sport to that I've loved for so long? So I hope everybody has enjoyed part one. I haven't exactly picked what sport is going to be next for part two. If you'd like, comment away and as to what you'd like to know has made some what sports evolution you would like to see next. As I said, I'm planning on doing them all. So this is just part one. I hope you all can meet me back here for part two. And until then, thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure that you have liked Motion Sports Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Motion Sports Network on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. Get your notifications turned on, because you're going to know when the next one of these is that I've got coming out. So again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.